Hello dear students, welcome to my channel. I am Ganesh. So today I have again come up with another topic that is called as fracture. Fracture, types of fracture is been asked many times in competitive examinations. So today let us discuss about the fracture and the types of fractures so that you can get 1 mark in a competitive examination. Okay, so let's begin with the fracture. Okay, so what is fracture? Definition of fracture. Fracture is nothing but it is a break in the continuity of the bone. Okay. So classification of fracture. Fractures are classified into four types. Four types mainly classification. This is a broad classification of the fracture. So fracture is classified into closed or simple fracture, open or compound or complex fracture. Third one is complete fracture. Fourth one is incomplete fractures. Okay. So these are the four types of fractures. First one is closed or simple fracture. Second is open or compound or complex fracture. Third one is complete fracture. Fourth one is a incomplete fracture. Okay. So what is this closed fracture or a simple fracture? Okay. So it is a break in the continuity of the bone in which the the fracture fragments does not comes out of the body. They does not come in contact with the external environment. Though they are broken, but still they are inside the body. Okay. So such fracture is known as a closed or simple fracture. Next one is open or compound or complex fractures. It is a break in the continuity of the bone in which the broken fragment will comes out of the body. Okay, it will pierce the body tissues and comes out, and it comes in contact with the external environment. So that is known as a open or compound or complex fracture. Okay, it is a break in the continuity of the bone in which the broken fragment pairs and comes out of the body and comes in contact with the external environment. So that is known as a open or compound or complex fracture. Next one is a complete fracture. Complete fracture means it is a break in the continuity of the bone in which bones are completely fragmented into two pieces or two or more pieces. Okay, they are completely separated. The fracture bones are completely separated. Okay, so that is known as a complete fracture. Next one is incomplete fracture. It is a type of a fracture. Okay, it is a break in the continuity of the bone in which the fracture fragment does not separate each other. Okay, they are still in contact with each other. Okay, so when the bones is broken but still they are in contact. Okay, so that is known as incomplete fracture. Okay, so these are the broad classification of fractures. Now let us see what are the types of fractures. Okay, so first one is a comminuted fracture. Okay, it is a break in the continuity of the bone in which bones are broken into two or more pieces. Bones are broken into more than two pieces. You can see the pieces of bone here. Okay, the pieces of bone here. So these pieces of bone are floating inside the body. Okay, so when the bone is broken into more than two pieces, it is known as a comminuted fracture. Okay, next one is displaced fractures. It is a break in the continuity of the bone in which the fracture fragments are completely separated, displaced, and they tend to override each other. Okay, so this is known as displacement fractures. It is a break in the continuity of the bone in which the fracture fragments are separated, well separated, and they usually tend to glide each other. Okay, they tend to glide each other. Okay, so this is known as a displaced fractures. Next one is green stick fracture. It is a type of incomplete fractures in which one side of the bone is broken and another side tend to bend. Okay, one side is only bent, another side is broken. Okay, so take an example. If you take one green stick and if you break it, one side will be broken, and another side will be bent. Okay, so that is known as a green stick fracture. That is why it is known as a green stick fracture. It is a type of incomplete fracture in which one side of the bone is broken, another side is only bent or it is still intact. Next one is impacted fracture. It is a break in the continuity of bone in which the bones are fragmented into two or more pieces, and that fragmented bones are driven in one of the segment of the bone. Okay, one of the fragment of the bone, the bone pieces are driven. Okay, so this is known as impacted fracture. It is a break in the continuity of the bone in which the bones are broken into two or more pieces, and that pieces usually tend to driven in the opposite fragment of the bone. Okay, so that is known as impacted fracture. Next one is interarticular fracture. It is a break in the continuity of this bone in which the fractured line will goes near to the joint, articular surface of the joint. Okay, so when the fracture that occurs at the position of the articular point of the joints, it is known as interarticular fractures. Okay, next is longitudinal fractures. It is again an incomplete fractures in which the line of fractures run along the longitudinal axis of the bone. Okay, here you can see this is the fracture here. So the line of fracture runs along the longitudinal axis of the fracture, longitudinal axis of the bone. Okay, that is known as a longitudinal fractures. Next one is oblique fractures. Okay, oblique fracture means here the fracture line. Okay, the fracture line run along the oblique axis of the bone. Okay, along the oblique axis of the shaft of the bone. You can see here there is an oblique line of the fracture. Okay, that is run oblique line of the shaft of the bone. Okay. Next one is pathological fractures. Okay, when the break in the continuity of bone that occurs at the pathological site of the bone. For example, if the bone is affected with a osteomyelitis or a osteoarthritis, in that case, if the fracture happen at that place, it is known as a pathological fracture. Okay, for example, osteoporosis also, where the bone fracture will occur at the osteoporosis bone. Okay. Next one is spiral fracture. It is a break in the continuity of the bone in which the fracture line run spirally along the shaft of the bone. Okay, it is a break in the continuity of the bone in which the fracture line run spirally along the shaft of the bone. Okay, so that is known as spiral fracture. Next one is stress fracture. It is a break in the continuity of the bone in which the fracture or a break in the continuity of the bone, it has occurred because of heavy stress on the bone. It may be because of overweight or it may be due to jogging, running. So sudden stress on the bone can lead to break in the continuity of the bone. That is known as stress fracture. Okay. Next one is transfer fracture. Okay. It is a break in the continuity of the bone in which the fracture line, okay, it runs along the perpendicular line of the shaft of the bone. Okay. So what is a transfer fracture? It is a break in the continuity of the bone in which the the fracture line runs perpendicular to the shaft of the bone. Okay. So in this, what they will do here, they will give description of the fracture and they will ask you to find out what is the fracture. Okay, what is the type of fracture. Okay, so they will give description of the fracture and they will ask which type of fracture it is. They will give options like this, the types of fracture they will give in the optionals, and they will give description of the fracture. Okay, so if you are able to understand this one, you will easily make out the types of fracture. Okay, so this is all about the types of fractures. Okay, so thank you very much. If you like this video, please press like button. If you are the first time visitors, please press subscribe and press bell icon. Okay, and share to others as well. Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, if you have any queries, please put in a comment. Okay, thank you very much.